You know the answer, you have the thought fully formed, and you say something smaller instead, something simpler, something that will not make anyone in the room feel outpaced or left behind. You have been doing this so long you barely notice it happening anymore, editing your own genuine thinking down to a size that feels socially safe before it ever reaches your mouth, and afterward there is a small familiar hollowness, the specific loneliness of having been present in a room without ever actually being fully there. Carl Jung had a real explanation for why real intelligence sometimes gets treated by the very person carrying it as something dangerous rather than something to simply express. Jung believed that a child whose genuine intellectual gifts produced discomfort in the people around them, whether jealousy from peers, intimidation from adults, or simply a consistent, subtle message that being too smart made others uncomfortable or made you seem arrogant, learns a specific and lasting lesson that the full expression of your actual mind is not entirely safe, and that shrinking it down protects both your relationships and your own sense of belonging. This lesson forms early and operates automatically for the rest of that person's life, activating in any room where genuine full expression might once again produce the same old discomfort in others. This explains why the shrinking happens so quickly and so completely outside conscious decision, since it is not a considered adult judgment about this specific room or this specific conversation. It is an old protective reflex, triggered by any situation that resembles the earlier one where full expression genuinely did produce real social cost, regardless of whether the people currently in the room would actually react the same way. If you recognize this pattern in your own life, hear this clearly. Hiding your genuine intelligence is not evidence that you are being appropriately humble, and it is not required in order to be genuinely likable or genuinely connected to other people. It is an old protective habit, formed in response to a specific earlier environment, one that likely does not accurately reflect how the actual people in your current life would respond if you simply let your full real thinking be seen. Here is what actually helps. It helps to choose one low-stakes situation and deliberately let your actual unedited thought reach the room without softening it in advance, and then actually observe what happens. In the overwhelming majority of cases, especially with people who genuinely respect you, the reaction is not the discomfort or resentment the old pattern predicts. It is simply engagement, sometimes even relief, since many people are considerably more interested in a genuine, thoughtful contribution than in the smaller, safer version you have been offering instead. There is a second thing worth doing deliberately. It helps to notice the specific cost of this constant shrinking, the quiet loneliness of never being fully met in most of your conversations, the accumulated fatigue of managing your own mind down to a size that feels acceptable, and to weigh this real, ongoing cost honestly against the old, protective fear that first taught you to hide. For most people, once this cost is actually named clearly, the old habit starts to feel considerably less worth maintaining than it once did. Think honestly about the last time you noticed yourself offering a smaller, simpler version of your actual thinking, and consider whether the room you were actually in required that shrinking, or whether you were simply following an old, protective habit formed somewhere else entirely. Right below the single word for the specific setting where you shrink your own thinking most reliably, naming it and testing the full unshrunk version in one small low-stakes situation is the real and practical way this old habit finally starts to loosen its grip. Because instinctively dumbing yourself down to fit in was never, according to Carl Jung's understanding, genuine humility working exactly as intended. It was an old protective habit formed in a specific earlier environment, and it deserves to be tested honestly against the actual people who surround you now.